everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about personal finance. Now, I'm definitely no expert in financial management, nor am I an investment manager or anything like that. But what I do know is that when I was in business school, I learned a lot about corporate finance. And in corporate finance, I learned about cash flow valuation, capital budgeting, all that stuff. But after I graduated, what I realized is that I didn't even know how to manage my own money. And to be quite honest, it was pretty embarrassing. So what I ended up doing is I took matters into my own hands and I self-taught and really learned all there really was to know about basic personal finance and also getting my feet wet into the world of investing, really making sure that my money is working for me and not just sitting in a savings account that's making very low interest. So that's why in today's video, I'm actually going to be sharing with you the exact resources that I tapped into to learn more about how to manage my money. But not only how to manage my money, but also how to grow and protect my money as well. Also, make sure that you stick around until the end because in the end of the video, not only do I share my investment strategy, but I also have an exciting announcement to make as well. So with that out of the way, make sure you grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and maybe even a warm blanket because I have a feeling that this video is going to be pretty information packed. Now, the first resource that really helped me a lot to get started in managing my money is a book called The Wealthy Barber Returns. Now, this book covers a lot of the basics in terms of how to responsibly manage your personal finance, especially when you are just starting out. But the key thing that I did take away from this book is that when you are looking for financial advice, do not go to a bank. Now, for me, when I first read this piece of advice, I was a little bit taken aback because you would intuitively think that if you are looking for financial advice, then you would naturally go to your bank like RBC, TD, Scotia, whatever, to find a financial advisor and get advice from them. But it makes complete sense. As someone who has worked in a commercial bank, so I actually used to be a teller for a couple years at a commercial bank, I can firsthand say that a lot of the people that work at the banks, the financial advisors, the mortgage brokers, whatever, they don't have your best interests in mind because they have their own quotas and their own incentives to make within the company. Because remember, banks are businesses, and as a business, they have the responsibility to drive money to their shareholders' pockets and not necessarily yours or mine. Another crucial thing that I learned from reading The Wealthy Barber Returns is the fact that a lot of the financial advisors that work at these banks actually do not have fiduciary duty. Now, you may be wondering, what exactly is fiduciary duty? Well, fiduciary duty is basically the legal obligation that someone has to act in the best interest of another person or another client. Now, I won't go into too much detail on this legal term, and if you want to do your own research, then by all means. But what I found really eye-opening and actually super alarming was finding out that if your TD financial advisor actually gives you the wrong investing advice or the wrong management advice, then they technically aren't legally liable for the damages that you might incur from taking their advice. And the fact that they actually aren't legally obligated to act in your best interest. So the advice that I took from The Wealthy Barber is that if you are in a position in your life where you are looking for financial advice, do not go to your local bank. Instead, go find an independent financial advisor. And when you do find an independent financial advisor, make sure to ask them if they have fiduciary duty. Because when they have fiduciary duty, that means that it is their legal obligation to act in your best interest and give you the best advice that they can possibly give. Not only this, independent financial advisors are great because they aren't tied to a big bank or a big company. That again means that they are giving the best advice that they can possibly give and making sure that you are paired up with the best products or the best services that are best suited for you. Now, the second book that really taught me a lot on how to protect my wealth is a book called Stop Overthinking Your Money. Now, this book was so amazing because it was literally so practical. And one of the key takeaways that I took away from this book is the importance of insurance, specifically disability insurance. Now, many of us have home insurance, car insurance, tenant insurance, and even phone insurance. But what about our biggest single asset? our ability to earn income. Now, let me break this down. When you are young, so let's say you're my age, I'm 24, the biggest asset that I have is myself. It's my ability to generate income. It's my ability to continue working so that I can get money. But let's say I get hurt one day and I have to take a temporary leave from work, and this leave is indefinite. I have no idea when I'll be returning back to work. If I don't have disability insurance, then I'm basically screwed, because when you have disability insurance, if one day, knock on wood, I don't have wood right now, but if I had wood, I would knock on it. Let's say one day you get hurt and you can't come to work anymore. If you have disability insurance, even if you aren't physically at work, you can still get money every month to support yourself because you have that insurance. Now, the reason why this was such a crazy takeaway for me is because that's what I thought life insurance was for. Well, I was completely wrong, because life insurance and disability insurance are two completely different things. Now, what I learned in this book is understanding the difference. Life insurance is basically there to protect your dependents, and life insurance is really important if you have a kid, if you have a husband or a wife, or if you have sick parents that depend on your income. So what that means is that when you are young, disability insurance is far more important than life insurance. Now, it's not to say not to buy life insurance, because everyone is different, but the key takeaway that I took from this book is to not sleep on disability insurance, because it is probably one of the most important insurances that you can buy for yourself. Because as I said earlier on in this video, when you are young, the biggest asset that you have is yourself. And if one day you go to a club and you dance so hard that both your legs break and you can't go to work, then if you have disability insurance, it ensures that every month, even if you aren't at work and while you're, on the hospital bed resting up your legs or whatever, you're still getting steady cash flow coming in every month. So remember, if you are currently at a job or you're self-employed, make sure that you are protecting your money by first protecting yourself. Now, let's talk about a fun topic. But not only is this topic fun, it's also truthfully pretty intimidating as well. And that topic is investing. Now, really quickly, there are two types of investing. The first is active investing, and the other one is passive investing. Active investing is basically when you're actively timing the market to make sure when you're gonna buy and when you're gonna sell. This is basically the glamorized way of investing, and it's pretty sexy. It's pretty much what you see on movies like Wolf of Wall Street, where you see people glued to their computer in Wall Street, timing the market, making sure they're buying on time and making sure they're selling on time in order to beat the market. Now, passive investing, on the other hand, is when you buy and you hold. You basically buy the stocks, or you buy the bonds, or you buy whatever you're investing, and you hold it for long periods of time. And during that time, when you have these passive investments, you're not really touching it. Maybe every year or every so often you might rebalance the portfolio, but the general rule of thumb is that you don't really touch these investments until years later when you really need the money. Now, for me, I personally am more of a passive investor, where I like to buy things and then hold them. My investments currently are a mix of index funds, cryptocurrencies, and also a little bit of weed stocks as well. But in today's video, I'll only be talking about index funds, because I believe that index funds are really great for beginner investors that want to get their feet wet, and if you want to make sure that your money's not just sitting in a general savings account making a subpar interest rate. Now, at this point of the video, you might be wondering, what exactly is an index fund? An index fund is basically when you invest in an entire index of bonds, stocks, or any other type of investment. For example, the S&P 500 is an example of an index. Let's say you buy an index that invests in the entire S&P 500. This means that by buying this index fund, you are actually buying a little piece of every company that's in the S&P 500. Let's say this S&P 500 goes up. that means your entire portfolio goes up with the S&P 500. If the S&P 500 goes down, then your portfolio goes down as well. Now, the key reasons why I decided to first start off investing in index funds when I was still a beginner, and to be honest, I'm still a beginner really. I'm not the most intense person out there, so that's why do your own research. But the reason why I chose to invest in index funds is not only because it's more cost effective and it's more tax efficient, but also because I'm a really freaking lazy person. I can't be bothered with active investing. I don't want to stare at a computer all day timing the market and making sure that I'm buying and selling at the same time in order to beat the market. For me, I'm more of a lazy person. I just want to invest my money, making sure that I'm getting a good return on it and letting it go. Another reason why I was really confident in choosing to invest in index funds as my first choice of investment when I first started is because I'm still really young, and I started investing maybe about 4 years ago, and knowing the fact that I have so many more years to go, that means that that money that's sitting in my index fund is actually going to compound over time. So let's say in 20 years from now, or in 30 years from now, or even in 10, 15 years from now, when I need the money, that money has been working for itself, and I didn't really have to tap into it, or I didn't really have to work hard for it. And I know that I'm making better returns than if it was just sitting in a savings account. And lastly, another reason why I decided to invest in index funds is because historically and statistically, studies show that it's actually really hard to beat the market. And usually if you are in active investing, your purpose is to beat the market. But you can do your own research. Research shows that it's actually very difficult. And for someone who is average like me, I don't necessarily have that skill to beat the market. And if I did pay someone else to try to beat the market, it's not guaranteed that they will. And I'll also be spending way more money on fees in order to pay someone else to manage my own investments. Now, I don't really want to go into too much detail on this, so you can actually go on Google and research active investing versus passive investing and come to your own conclusions. But for the purpose of the video, I do want to share the 2 resources that help me get started in investing passively. The first resource is Canadian Couch Potato. Canadian Couch Potato is a Canadian blog that's dedicated to index investing. And if you are a beginner, then I highly recommend checking out their FAQ page to learn more about index investing and to frequently ask questions that people have about it. Also, one of the best things about Canadian Couch Potato is that they actually have model portfolios for you to follow if you are unsure what type of asset mix that you should have for your portfolio based on your own risk tolerance. So I found that resource incredibly helpful. Now, another amazing resource if you're really interested in this index investing or even just learning about investing in general is a book called The Value of Simple. This book was amazing because it not only broke down financial concepts and principles in easy to understand language, but it also gives you the step-by-step tutorials on how to set up your investments on platforms like Tangerine, TD, and Questrade. And what you'll find if you actually read The Value of Simple, a lot of their recommendations are really similar to the ones that you see on Canadian Couch Potato because technically they follow the same strategy. And so that's why with the blog and with this book, it really helped me to get started in terms of investing my money. And I know if you got to this point of the video, you're probably feeling really overwhelmed, especially with the part about investing. Trust me, I was there before. But what really helped me was just really taking the time to actually research things myself. And if you actually take the time to research things and you also reach out to financial advisors, especially independent ones that have fiduciary duty, then you will be in a much better place versus keeping your money in a basic checking account or a basic savings account. And what I also found is that because I started off with really basic index investing that's known to be really safe and also known to be really effective, and of course do your research on that, I became more familiar and more comfortable with investing in general. And that's why I decided to later on invest in other things other than just index funds. I really hope that you found this video helpful. I really wanted to break down the key takeaways of the books that I've read and the things that really opened my eyes and made me a smarter person in terms of how to manage and invest my money. Also guys, before I forget, the important announcement is that I have just started a new Facebook group called the Fearless Boss Network. I really wanted to make this group so that I could connect like-minded people together. I've always wanted to form a community of people that could support each other in their goal-getting dreams, and this is it. It's going to be a group where we can support each other on our goals, and for me to also share resources that might be helpful to you, and for you to hopefully do the same to all the members that are in the group as well. I personally believe that when people support other people, magic happens, and this is the intention of the group. So again, if you are interested, the link is going to be down below, not only in the description box, but also in the comment section as well. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for all of your support. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.